Hello and welcome to Power to the People with me, Graham Price. I just want to have a very quick chat about something that has jumped out at me in the last few days. I would guess more people now know who Graham Linehan is for his disgusting tirades against trans people than for the many successful comedies he's written or been involved in writing. I particularly like the IT crowd. The character of Moss, who was played by Richard Ayoade, really makes me laugh. He's a man that I consider to be one of the funniest comedians of our era, and he's not a transphobe. It's a shame that Graham Linehan has become so disastrously obsessed with what teenagers do or don't have in their pants. I think the less said about that, the better. But suffice to say, his obsession isn't a nonce-based nuance of seedy intent. It's just because he's absolutely lost his mind in the last few years and now spends 12 hours a day attacking trans people and sharing far-right misinformation about them on Twitter. In the interest of keeping this quick to record and to watch, I'm not going to cram this video with screenshots of his filth, but I will leave a link to his Twitter feed in the descriptions box so you can go and check it out for yourself, if you can bear it. I'd also like to share a few of the more utterly fuck-witted, dumb-assed, nasty and inshitifying comments that got me started on creating this script. Right after this. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to take a quick moment to say that my videos often get thousands more views than I have subscribers. That can only mean that there are people watching who aren't subscribed. That's a difficult thing to deal with. Just have a quick look and make sure you've subscribed and rang the bell. Join the Power to the People family, and whenever you're furious about the right-wing media bias, you can join me for a little bit of straight talk and honesty about the bastards that write the headlines. Thank you. I think my views on trans people are quite liberal, and as I've always said, my channel is an ally to trans people. You're welcome here, and I'll argue with anybody who peppers my comments section with anti-trans bullshit. Something occurs to me every time I inadvertently wade into this debate though. Most of us here will be familiar with the names Roy and Hayley Cropper. Most of us remember when Hayley, played by Julie Hesmanley, told Roy and Corrie that she was transgender. It was a big story at the time, but not because everybody was outraged and disgusted. No, it was because it was a heartwarming story and we wanted to find out if Roy was going to overcome his life as a lonely bloke with a carrier bag and a crappy cagoule and accept her for who she was. She'd fully transitioned and just wanted to be an average northern lass with average northern problems. Well, he did accept her, and a few years down the line, the story was totally forgotten and they went on to become a much-loved couple who entertained us with heartwarming and engaging plots over and over again. Nobody cared that she was trans back then. That is until people like Graham Linehan or J.K. Rowling or Lawrence Fox came along and, egged on by the Tories' continual indulgence in any culture war that they thought would distract people from their utter corruption, totally distorted the idea of anybody being transgender. Just have a look at Kemi Badenoch's views if you want to see distortion. I try to avoid Facebook these days. It's okay for staying in touch with friends and family, I suppose, and maybe checking out whether that guy who used to be fit in college has now got a big beer belly and a bald head and no teeth. But it's not exactly a place for intelligent discourse, is it? No. Well, a story about Graham Linehan jumped out at me. I'll be honest, I didn't read more than the first few lines of the story. I have no interest in hearing anything he might have to say, but I put my social media hazmat suit on, huffed a big dose of copium in anticipation of right-wing stupidity, and waded into the comments section, the fetid bottom half of the internet. A lot of really nasty idiots were hanging out down there. I do try to scroll past things when I can force myself, but I wasn't going to leave this one. The trans people I know, have known, or who have affected my life positively deserve a bit more than my gobby scouse rants on YouTube are all I've got to offer. This was the comment that I left. Take a look at his Twitter feed. The man has gone completely mental with hatred for trans people. Not just posting nasty lies about them or reposting fake news stories. He's actually turned so crazy and nasty that his own wife left him and his children barely speak to him. If you enjoy his work, that's fair enough. I personally love the IT crowd, but let's not pretend that he is normal and his views aren't absolutely crazy based on far-right misinformation, or that he is being cancelled for speaking out. The guy has gone completely insane, and despite his success, wakes up furious every morning that trans people dare to exist, and literally spends all day attacking them for about 20 hours on Twitter. Seriously, before you tell me I'm wrong, go to his Twitter feed and have a look at it. He's entitled to his views. He's not entitled to devote his whole life to trying to make the lives of people who have done him no harm and done nothing illegal an absolute misery because he's obsessed with what they might or might not have in their pants. Now, obviously, I'm very busy at the moment. I've got lots going on and a 14-year-old whippet with a broken leg lying over there. But I never actually went back to check if anybody had replied until last night. Quite pleased to see that quite a few people had actually agreed with me. Much as it behoves me to do so, I even had to admire a few individuals who said that they were a bit disgusted by transgender issues, but still agreed with me that Graham Linehan has gone way too far and lost his mind. Comes to something when even right-wing transphobes think you've gone too far, doesn't it? I had to have a little chuckle at a woman who posted this in response to my comment though. Yeah, you know nothing about him other than BS fed to you. Often when he is on live feed, his kids are there and he is hurrying up to go out with them. You just don't understand reality and think a man speaking up for women should be ashamed. Cult member that you are. She's lying. His kids have basically disowned him. She clearly thinks she can just tell lies to make a point on social media. Definitely right-wing there then. But another guy who replied said this. I can't turn on my phone without seeing something from that fella. Is that what cancelled is? He was just a name on the end credits of Father Ted before he got cancelled. Now we know what he has for breakfast. Good point, mate. Well made. There was quite a lot of anger in the comments, actually, and I was quite pleased to see it. Linehan claims he's been cancelled for his views. Seems the public don't agree. I always say this, but I don't want to ramble too much because the longer my videos are, the less views they tend to get, and I do want as many people as possible to see this, but I'll just finish by sharing this other comment in my reply, though. A chap called Terry Lowell said, whichever side of the argument you stand on, read his autobiography for a clear articulation of his views and what has happened to him as a consequence of expressing them. An interesting read. This was my response. Whichever side of the argument you stand on, read Mein Kampf for a clear articulation of Hitler's views and why he shot himself in a bunker in Berlin in 1945 as a consequence of expressing them. An interesting read. And then I couldn't help myself. I had to go on and say, Linehan's views are fucking disgusting, based entirely on culture war lies and bullshit, and rooted in hatred of a minority he doesn't understand, doesn't care to learn anything about, and hates for no apparent reason. I expect I'll either be ignored, insulted, or Terry will leave a laugh emoji and run away without answering because thinking is hard and empathy isn't fashionable. Fuck you, Terry. Oh, and the original nasty bitch who accused me of being in a cult because I don't hate trans people for no reason and accused me of being misinformed despite me literally and obviously knowing far more about the issue than her. She got this reply. Yeah, love, that's absolute bullshit. You have no idea what you're talking about. Get to fuck, you nasty, misinformed, pathetic freak. Trans people are just people trying to make their own way in life. That's my position and I'm sticking with it. I'm sure every trans person I've ever known was a better human being than she is, or Terry. Thank you for watching if you've gotten this far. I find Graham Linehan absolutely fucking disgusting, but he has at least given me an excuse to talk about my channel's support for trans people. It is a complicated issue, and I do understand how people who have lived a normal and sheltered life might struggle to understand it, especially when they're continually bombarded with lies and bullshit by people like Glinner, as he calls himself these days. Go fuck yourself, Linehan, you disgusting piece of shit. You probably have to. No decent person would ever dream of going near you, and anybody who looks at your Twitter feed sees nothing other than an obsessed maniac bigot with nothing to offer but hatred, lies and misinformation. I don't hate much or many, but I hate you fucking scum. Now, on a more cheerful note, if you'd like to support the channel in its battle against bigotry, bullshit and hateful bastards, then you'll find the links to Patreon, PayPal and the Buy Me a Coffee page are mincing delightfully in the descriptions box. And, as always, the join button for memberships is below. Obviously, that isn't all I have to say. Maybe not even all I've got to say about Graham Linehan. But it is as much of what I've got to say as I can bear to say today. Ta-ra, lad. Here he is, on the other side of the living room, nursing his fractured bones. Aren't you, mate? And he's off his face on painkillers. But thanks for all the lovely comments about him. He will be alright. Cheers.